Think about the last thing you bought on impulse. Like, maybe it was a candy bar at the checkout counter.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe you finally caved and downloaded that new productivity app everyone's been talking about.
Right. And you probably thought it was just this, you know, spontaneous choice, a little spark of free will.
We all like to think that.
I mean, I certainly do. But it wasn't. Your decision was actually the final, entirely predictable domino falling.
Falling right into place.
Exactly. Falling in this deeply orchestrated, basically mathematical equation that has been running in the background of commerce for, gosh, over 60 years.
It's wild. It completely shatters the illusion of choice, doesn't it?
It really does. And
Oh.
today, we are decoding that equation.
Because, I mean, we walk through supermarkets or we scroll through online stores and we feel completely in control.
Right, like we're the ones driving.
Yeah, but the environment around us, the colors, the availability, the exact dollar amount you see on the screen,
Yeah.
it's all been engineered to align with very specific psychological triggers.
And to figure out how this engineering actually works, we're pulling from a surprisingly foundational source for this deep dive.
Very foundational.
Yeah. We are looking at a Class X student handbook on marketing and sales.
Which sounds a bit funny at first.
I know what you're thinking. A high school textbook. Really?
Right.
But there is a really brilliant reason for this. Most business books wrap these concepts in, like impenetrable corporate jargon.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of buzzwords.
Exactly. So our mission today is to strip all of that away and look the raw, ultimate blueprint for how businesses design their offerings for us.
And that blueprint is formally known as the marketing mix.
Yes.
The beauty of looking at a foundational text like this is that it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel.
Right. It just shows you how the wheel was built in the first place.
Exactly. And getting a grip on these fundamentals, it isn't just an exercise for, aspiring business owners.
No, not at all.
It's a survival toolkit for you, the listener. It is literally how you transition from being a passive consumer into an active decoder of the world around you.
I love that. Active decoder.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. The textbook introduces a definition from a scholar named William Justin.
A classic.
Yeah. And he describes the marketing mix as a combination of 4 specific inputs. And these make up the absolute core of a company's marketing system.
The famous 4 Ps.
The 4 Ps. So that's the product, the price structure, the promotional activities, and the place.
And place just means the distribution system.
Right, where you actually get it.
And just to give that a little bit of historical weight, while Stanton defines it really well, this specific 4P framework was actually formalized by a marketer named E. Jerome McCarthy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, way back in 1960.
That's crazy.
It is, and it's been the absolute gold standard for executing a market strategy ever since.
For 60 years.
Yeah. But what I find crucial in the text is the underlying philosophy here. Businesses don't just use these 4 inputs to sell things.
What are they doing then?
Well, they use this specific combination to satisfy a predetermined customer need.
Okay, but before we dive into those core 4, I have to point out a distinction from the text that completely changed how I look at certain businesses.
Oh, the service distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we always hear about the 4 Ps, right?
Yeah.
But the handbook clarifies that this classic framework is technically the product marketing mix.
Right. It's designed for tangible goods.
Things you can physically hold in your hand, a
Mhm.
physical object.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, like, what if you are selling something invisible?
Like a service.
Exactly. What if you're selling accounting or a haircut or a plane ticket? The text states that services actually use a 7P framework.
It's a critical distinction because services are intangible, right? So selling them requires 3 additional variables.
That's so fascinating.
You take the original 4 and you add people, process, and physical evidence.
I just found that analogy absolutely brilliant. Because selling an invisible service means you have to build 3 extra dimensions of reality just to convince the customer it has value.
That's a great way to put it.
You have to meticulously plan out the people delivering this invisible service.
Right.
You have to map out the process so the customer feels secure. And my absolute favorite, physical evidence.
Oh, yeah. The physical proof.
You have to invent physical proof that the invisible thing is premium. Like, it's why a high-end law firm has this massive, gorgeous mahogany desk in a glass skyscraper.
Right, because you aren't actually buying the desk.
No, you're buying legal advice.
Okay.
But the desk is the physical evidence that their invisible advice is actually worth paying for.
It anchors the value. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the fundamental rule of the marketing mix, whether we're talking about the 4 Ps of products or the 7 Ps of services, is that these elements are an interconnected web.
Okay.
You really cannot isolate them. A successful strategy requires a very specific target market, and the mix is calibrated entirely around them.
So it's essentially like this fragile ecosystem.
I wouldn't call it fragile, actually. I'd call it highly responsive.
Okay. Responsive how?
Well, if there is a shift in the environment, let's say a new technology emerges, or maybe the economy dips, it forces a ripple effect across the entire equation.
So everything has to shift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A decision to change just one element of the mix will inevitably break the other 3 unless they are also adjusted.
Okay, let's actually test that ripple effect, starting with the very first domino.
The product.
Right, because you really can't decide what you're going to charge for something or how you're going to advertise it until you know exactly what the thing is.
Makes total sense.
So looking at product, the text defines it as an attempt to solve a specific customer problem.
Right.
But I kind of want to push back on this a little bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, if I'm an inventor and I have a great idea for a gadget, shouldn't I just build it?
Not necessarily.
Because I'm looking at this list of diagnostic questions businesses are supposed to ask. Things like, what does the customer want from it? Or how will they experience it?
Yeah, those are standard.
And it feels backwards to me. Like, why does the customer's end use dictate how I manufacture my own invention?
Well, because an invention without a defined end use is just a hobby.
Oh, ouch.
I mean, it's true. A product is a commercial tool. Let's look at the psychology here. The customer's end use dictates the physical attributes because it defines the context of the problem.
Okay, give me an example.
So if the problem your customer has is that they need a quick on-the-go energy boost, the context is likely a crowded train or, a fast walk to the office.
Right, they're busy.
That end use dictates that your physical product must be pocket-sized. The packaging literally must be terrible with one hand.
Oh, wow. Okay, so contrast that with something meant to be consumed at, like, a luxury dinner party.
Exactly. The dinner party context means the packaging might be heavy glass, and the color palette would be muted and sleek rather than neon and loud. Every physical attribute is a direct, engineered response to where the customer will be standing when they use it.
That makes a lot of sense.
And to navigate this, the text mentions 2 concepts we should probably decode. The first is identifying the unique selling proposition, or USP.
Wait, I have to interrupt there.
Sure.
Unique selling proposition sounds like one of those slides from a dreadful corporate retreat.
It really does.
In plain English, what is a USP? Is it just the bullet point of why someone should buy your thing instead of the other guy's?
It's actually much deeper than a bullet point. A USP is the specific, unaddressed pain point in the market that only your product solves.
Okay.
It is the core DNA of the product. Like, if your USP is we are the most durable boot on the market, that DNA forces you to use heavier rubber.
Right, to be durable.
But that heavier rubber changes the product's weight,
Yeah.
which then changes the shipping costs.
Ah, the ripple effect again.
Exactly. And that ties into the second concept the text highlights, which is the product life cycle.
Which means a product doesn't just sit in a static state forever.
Right. Products are born, they grow, they reach maturity, and eventually they decline.
Just like anything else.
Yeah. And a business has to know exactly where their product is in that cycle because the marketing mix for a brand new invention is entirely different from the marketing mix of a 20-year-old staple product.
Right, because that older product is probably slowly losing market share to newer alternatives.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you've nailed it. You have designed the perfect, pocket-sized, easy-to-open snack.
Okay.
You understand its life cycle. It solves a real problem.
Okay.
But here is the trap.
What's the trap?
If that perfect snack is just sitting in a cardboard box in your warehouse, it is practically dead.
Completely useless.
Which leads us to the second P place. Because a product without a place is just a museum piece.
That's very true. Place or distribution is entirely about solving the problem of availability. You have to physically get the product to the customer at the right time and in the right quantity. And this is fundamentally about removing friction.
Removing friction, I like that. The textbook breaks this down into 2 main strategies, right? Direct distribution and indirect distribution.
Yes.
Direct is when the business sells straight to you, with no middleman. That could be through their own website, a mail catalog, or a pop-up shop.
Correct.
And this makes logical sense to me. You make a product, you sell it to me, and you keep 100% of the profit.
It's simple math.
But then the text introduces indirect distribution, which is using middlemen, like wholesalers, distributors, or, retail supermarkets.
Right.
Why on earth would a company willingly give up a massive chunk of their profit margin to a supermarket?
Because the middleman provides scale by aggregating human behavior.
What do you mean by that?
Let's go back to your pocket-sized snack. If you only sell directly through your website, the customer has to experience massive friction. They have to specifically remember your URL, type it in, pay for shipping, and then wait 3 days to get it.
Yeah, that's annoying.
And when a customer is hungry right now, that friction kills the sale.
Oh, so the supermarket is basically a friction removal machine.
Precisely. A supermarket aggregates thousands of customers who are already walking the aisles with their wallets out.
They are there to buy.
Yes. The business is paying the middleman, sacrificing that profit margin in exchange for instant frictionless availability.
Wow.
They are basically paying for placement in the exact environment where the customer's impulse occurs.
That reframes it entirely for me.
Yeah.
You aren't losing profit. You are buying convenience for the buyer.
Exactly.
Okay, so our product is built and it's perfectly placed on a supermarket shelf. Now, the business has to attach a number to it.
The price.
Yes, and here's where it gets really interesting. We're transitioning to the third P. The textbook explicitly states something that feels entirely counterintuitive to me.
Oh.
It says that price is not an objective costing of the materials on offer.
No, it's not. It is actually the most heavily psychological pillar of the entire mix.
Really?
Yeah. The text explains that price is entirely linked to perceived value. It is completely reliant on how the customer feels about what you are selling.
Wait, but surely the raw materials matter. The text mentions value chain costs.
Yes.
Like, if it costs me $5 to manufacture the snack and $1 to ship it, I have to charge at least $6 just to break even, right?
You too. Objective factors like value chain costs, the cost of raw materials, labor, logistics, they set the absolute floor.
Okay, the floor.
That is your minimum survival price. But the ceiling,
The maximum amount you can charge.
yes, that is dictated purely by human psychology.
Wow.
If a customer perceives high value in your brand, you can price a $6 item at $60.
Just because they feel it's worth it.
Exactly. Conversely, if the consumer sees little value, you might actually be forced to underprice it below cost just to clear your inventory.
That's wild. And the handbook actually outlines 4 specific pricing strategies, and you can see this psychology at play in them.
You really can.
The first 2 are the most objective. There's cost plus pricing, which is very mechanical.
Right.
You calculate your cost, say 100 rupees for a car repair, and you simply add a mandatory 25% return. So you charge the customer 125.
Very straightforward. And similarly, there is hour-based pricing.
Right.
This is standard for service industries. Gardeners, photographers, or consultants charging a flat rate for every hour of their time.
Okay.
These methods are safe, they're predictable, and entirely based on the seller's needs.
But then we get to the final 2 strategies, and this is where the psychology of perceived value goes into overdrive.
It really does.
The text contrasts penetration pricing with skimming. Let me try an analogy here, because these 2 are polar opposites in how they manipulate the market. Let's say you are launching a new beverage. Penetration pricing is like throwing a massive open-invite neighborhood block party.
Okay, I like that.
You want to dominate the conversation immediately, so you launch at an incredibly low price. You are aggressively penetrating the market, inviting everyone to try it.
Right.
You're building hype and actively stealing customers away from established brands who simply can't match your artificially low price.
And the mechanism there is volume. You accept a tiny profit margin or maybe even take a loss on each unit because your goal is to force your way into the customer's daily routine.
Right, you want to be their habit.
Exactly. And once you become a habit, the text notes the business eventually implements a price rise.
That's sneaky. Now, contrast that with skimming.
Skimming is very different.
Yeah, skimming is not a block party. Skimming is an ultra-exclusive VIP club.
Right.
You launch a new product, and you intentionally set the price outrageously high. You are targeting a very specific demographic. People whose ego or status demands that they be the first to own it.
The textbook uses mobile phones and high fashion as prime examples of this.
Oh, totally.
A new technology drops, and the initial price targets the wealthy early adopters. You are skimming the absolute maximum profit off the top layer of the market.
Right.
But I would argue the VIP club is a dangerous game. It relies entirely on the physical evidence and branding we discussed earlier.
Because if it's not actually premium,
If the product doesn't genuinely feel premium, the perceived value drops, the VIPs abandon it, and the club collapses.
but if it works, it's brilliant.
Oh, it's incredibly lucrative.
You skim the wealthy layer first, then next season, you lower the velvet rope slightly, you drop the price to let the middle class in,
Yep.
and eventually, the product is mass-produced and sold cheaply to everyone else. You extract the maximum possible dollar from every single economic tier over time.
That is the mathematics of skimming. It is a calculated descent down the socioeconomic ladder.
So let's look at our board here. We have a brilliantly designed product solving a real problem. It is placed in the perfect, frictionless environment. The price has been psychologically dialed in.
Right.
But there is still one fatal flaw. If the product exists in a vacuum, nobody will ever buy it.
Which brings us to the final pay promotion.
Yes.
And this requires busting a massive, ubiquitous misconception. You hear people use these terms interchangeably all the time, but the text is very clear. Promotion is not a synonym for marketing.
Okay, because marketing is the entire 60-year-old equation we've been decoding today. The
Okay.
product, the place, the price, everything.
Correct. Promotion is merely the communication arm of that broader operation.
Got it.
It is the collection of techniques an organization uses to make the target market aware of the other three Ps.
The handbook categorizes this communication into 3 distinct tools, and I want to look at the why behind each of them.
Okay.
The first is advertising. This is the obvious one, right? Paid mass media, TV commercials, billboards, sponsored social media posts. It's essentially a megaphone.
But the drawback of advertising is that the consumer instantly recognizes the bias.
Because they paid for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You paid for the megaphone, so the customer knows you are going to say nice things about yourself. Which is why the text introduces a second tool, public relations, or PR. PR is defined as developing positive relationships and reputation.
And the mechanism of PR is fascinating to me because it bypasses the consumer's skepticism.
Completely.
Like, if a business buys a billboard saying their product is great, I usually just ignore it.
Right.
But if a PR team convinces a trusted journalist to write an article saying the product is great, I actually believe it. PR uses the credibility of a third party to validate the product.
And then you have the third tool, which is purely behavioral.
Sales promotion.
Yes. This is distinctly different from advertising because it is not about building long-term brand awareness.
What is it about then?
It is a short-term tactical incentive designed to force an immediate action. Money off coupons, loyalty cards, flash sales.
Oh, I see.
Advertising tells you why you should buy. Sales promotion gives you an urgent reason to buy right now.
Okay, so we have all 4 pieces of the puzzle. But throughout this entire deep dive, you keep mentioning that these Ps cannot exist in isolation.
They cannot.
They're a responsive ecosystem. And the textbook actually provides an ultimate holistic example that proves this mathematically.
Yes, the bank account example.
Yeah, let's walk through it.
It's the perfect synthesis. Let's look at the product first. In this scenario, the product is the service of the account itself.
Right.
The ability to safely store money, make direct debit payments, and perhaps utilize an overdraft facility.
Okay, then you need the place. Where does the customer interact with this invisible service?
Exactly.
The place is the digital app on their phone, the telephone banking hotline, or a physical brick-and-mortar branch on Main Street.
Now, let's say the bank decides they want to capture a new market segment, university students.
Okay.
So they deploy promotion. They launch an advertising campaign targeting 18-year-olds, offering a massive incentive to open an account.
Michael.
Maybe they offer an interest-free overdraft or straight-up free cash to buy textbooks.
Wow. But the bank is not a charity. Giving away free cash and interest-free loans creates a massive financial hole.
Right.
How do they afford that promotion? This leads directly to the price.
Exactly.
The price of a bank account is the interest rate paid on positive balances and the interest charged on negative ones.
And this is where the ripple effect locks in. You cannot offer the student that aggressive promotion without recalculating the entire pricing structure on the back end.
Oh, I see.
The bank has to adjust the interest rates across the board to ensure the promotional offer remains mathematically viable.
That is incredible.
The product feature dictates the place, which dictates the promotional strategy, which completely rewrites the price. If you pull one string, the entire web moves.
So what does this all mean? It means that when you are navigating your day, Nothing is random.
Nothing.
The convenience of a drive-through window, the specific font on a luxury watch,
Yeah.
the sudden flash sale in your inbox, it is a deeply interconnected system.
Yes, it is.
And it's designed to meet you exactly where you are with exactly what they think you need at the maximum price your psychology will tolerate.
And internalizing that truth completely shifts your perspective.
It really changes how you see the world.
It does. By understanding the levers of product, place, price, and promotion, you stop being a target. You gain the ability to look at a compelling offer, step back, and analytically deconstruct exactly how they are trying to persuade you.
You get to see the math behind the magic.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism in a commercial world.
But I want to leave you with a final thought today, something that pushes past the textbook.
Okay.
The 1960s framework we discussed today was built for a physical world where businesses had to guess what you wanted and put it on a shelf.
Right.
But today, algorithms and digital tracking are predicting your impulses before you even form them. They know your habits so well, they can dynamically change the price and promotion of an item the second you log on.
That's a scary thought.
It is. So you have to wonder, is the marketing mix still a tool businesses use to manipulate us? Or have our own digital footprints become so loud that we are actually manipulating the businesses into building exactly what we demand?
Something to think about.
Keep an eye out. See you next time.